I'm Shelley Higginbotham from the League of Women Voters, and we are so pleased to be a part of good government and voter outreach by facilitating this virtual candidate forum for the Cambria Community Services District. The League is a nonpartisan organization which provides a variety of voter information and education services. We are joined here by three candidates, Jim Beringer, Deborah Scott, and Michael Thomas. Thank you so much for agreeing to participate in this evening's forum. The forum is being managed by Matrix Mobile, Mr. Hilding Larson. I will be joined by Ann Quinn from the League, who is our timer this evening. And the questions have been submitted to the League prior to this evening, and they were sorted by Valerie Steenson, who is also a League member. Tonight, we were going to begin with each candidate having a 3-minute opening statement, followed by a series of questions. The order of answering questions will rotate with each candidate, so everyone has the opportunity to answer first. The questions, you will have a minute and a half to answer, and then there will be a 2-minute closing statement by each candidate. This webinar is being recorded and the public has viewing access only. A recording of this webinar will be available on the League website in a few days. So with that, we did a random drawing of who would go first. And Ms. Scott, you are first for your opening statement.
Thank you so much, Shelley, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for making this forum possible. I'm hoping that some of you have seen my purple and blue signs out around the town. And at the top of those signs, it says dedicated and experienced. I bring 30+ years of experience in leadership, both as an advanced practice nurse and also as a business owner. I served as the executive director for the Nevada State Board of Nursing for 20 years. And during that time, I honed my skills in ethical governance, fiscal accountability, and bringing stakeholders together, especially when there were many different opinions. In the past years, the district has been saddled with increasing debt that has not always benefited its citizens. During my career in every position that I held, I was successful in increasing the agency's financial reserves while improving services to our constituents. I'm dedicated to preserving Cambria's unique qualities that are the reason that we live here. I will work to ensure that our water and wastewater infrastructure is reliable for Cambria citizens and our visitors, limiting growth that would threaten our precious environment and natural resources. I will work collaboratively to address the very real threat of catastrophic wildfire and make decisions based on sound data and unbiased research. We are strong when we work together for the good of our beautiful village. The CCSD directors must put Cambrians first in every decision that is made, making sure that strong communication always passes freely between the board and the citizens it serves. I have several ideas as to how to increase awareness of the activities of the boards prior to their making a final decision. The aim of these endeavors would be to increase transparency and foster trust between the board and the public. Every vote counts, and I hope after tonight you find that what my platform stands for is something that you could support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Mr. Beringer. Oh, you're muted. There you are.
There I am. It's up to me?
It's
okay. Hey, I'm going to say something that I haven't said in any of my brochures or even maybe to some of my friends, because my background prior to coming to Cambria is kind of a darkness. After finishing my service in the Navy and in Sunnyvale, I opened up my own business for about 7 years, a small manufacturing business. And then after that, I worked for McDonnell Douglas selling computer time and computer services. I rose to the position of regional manager and had control over 9 Western states. I had 2 division or regional managers under me, and um, about 100 salespeople, having hiring and firing authority, of course. Then I joined a company called Apollo Computer, and we sold hardware and throughout the United States, and I had the 9 Western states in my command. Then I joined a company called anyway, I was in charge of the nine or everything west of the Mississippi, and then having hired and termination authority over those people. Although terminating people is very, very, very difficult, but a responsibility that CCSD has. I had my own. I also started a skateboard company, along with my son-in-law, and eventually sold that to K2, the ski company. I opened up my own business here in Cambria, a small bed and breakfast. And once here, I also sold time on KTEA when Jim Campshower was starting the station, sold point of sale systems to local restaurants. And I taught mechanical engineering at Cal Poly for 7 years and retired. Like others, I volunteered in support of the Fiscalini Ranch, and support our charitable organizations have contributed toward beautifying Cambria trash receptacles. As an officer of the Lions Club, I supported the Vision Screening Project for our local school children. I'm a member of the American Legion, the Historical Society, and Chamber of Commerce. Fogs End Barn is the site of many community fundraisers. But as for becoming a director of the CCSD, the biggest difference is my perspective and experience. Having lived in this town for 22 years, I was here when Bob and Elise Bell were hosting potluck fundraisers toward purchasing the ranch. Joellen was trespassing on the ranch in an effort to secure the purchase of this open space that is now our treasure. I've been a member of the CCSD board from 2010 through 2018, CCSD Pros Commissioner, and former chair of the NCAC. I've met with the Coastal Commission, county staff, and state parks staff on many occasions. I've met with Clyde Warren, George Kendall, and other ranchers on Santa Rosa and San Simeon Creeks to better understand their concerns and conservation efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Behringer.
Thank you.
Your time is up, but thank you.
Excellent.
Mr. Thomas.
Oh, good evening. My name is Michael Thomas, and I want to thank Shelley and the League of Women Voters for making this forum possible. Our friend Harry Farmer for the nudge to make this happen, and to all of you who submitted questions and are listening tonight. Just a bit about me, my qualifications, and my priorities. I grew up in the LA Basin, and after high school, after a year of surfing and community college, I spent 3 years in the Army in the Combat Engineering Unit, learning how to build bridges and minesweeping operations. I earned my mechanical engineering degree at UCSB. Out of college, I joined Chevron and spent the next 34 years in a wide variety of engineering, operations, and project management roles. Along the way, I earned my MBA. I have 3 adult children and 5 grandchildren spread out over 4 different time zones, all the way from California to Dubai. Retired since 2013. My wife Gail and I spent the next 5 years traveling, working a bit, and searching basically the whole West Coast for our dream home, which brought us here to Cambria in early 2018. And we absolutely love life here, surrounded by friends in the middle of the forest, a few minutes walk from the ranch and from the ocean. I will do all I can to preserve this natural treasure for generations to come. For years, I've volunteered with my friends on the Fiscalini Ranch Preserve, maintaining trails, removing invasive species, volunteering with the Resources and Infrastructure Committee, helping to maintain and enhance our aging infrastructure, working with the film festival, the Scarecrow Festival. I've learned how rewarding it is helping the community, and that's why I'm running for the board. I bring a rich set of skills and competencies as a practice leader for project decision making, I've got experience that we need to bring people together to make good decisions. For my decades in project management, I know what it takes to successfully manage a project. With my background in operations and maintenance, I understand the needs of our aging infrastructure. And with extensive change management experience, I know how to engage communities in developing solutions they can support. You have my commitment that I will serve all Cambria residents, not only those who vote, but those with no voice, the forest, the ocean, and all the animals who depend on us to protect their habitat. My priorities: build trust between CCSD, the board, and the community, provide safe, reliable drinking water, keeping our community safe from wildfires, limiting growth to no more than we can sustain given our limited resources and escape routes, and keep costs in check while maintaining and enhancing our aging water delivery and wastewater infrastructure for the generations to come.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. So now we'll move on to the questions. And you can imagine there were quite a few regarding water. So we're going to start with water. Mr. Beringer, you'll answer the question first. What is your plan for finalizing the coastal development permit for the WRF? And do you favor increasing water connections?
Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it? But yes, I think that there is technology available right now that will allow us to be able to run the plant. And I think running the plant, even in a standby mode, is an excellent idea. By the end of 2023, direct reuse is going to be available. One of the things that in running the plant is that it also provides mitigation water to the creek itself. So it's actually a environmentally friendly way of approaching that. And as far as adding new customers, it's really the county that is responsible for the growth ordinance. The growth ordinance needs to be changed by the county once they are convinced that the resources are available for us to support additional connections. Once the county determines that in fact the data and the facts and the science support additional connections, we would need to add more connections because our responsibility is to provide water and wastewater services to our customers. Oh, I have 30 seconds left.
Oh, you do. You can.
I have a stop.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is two questions in one. So what to do with the WRF, the Water Reclamation Facility? Short answer, either secure a regular operating permit and engage the community in deciding how and when to use this facility to enhance our water supply. And if we fail to achieve a permit and meet all the operating conditions, cut our losses and dismantle the facility. I don't expect that's a course of action, but you got to understand both sides. We've got to have a sustainable solution for brine waste, and trucking brine waste down the highway is, in my view, not sustainable. I agree there's a lot of promise to the potential direct reuse. A lot of social issues, actually more social issues than technical, to get to that point. And it looks like we do have on the horizon a good solution for the brine waste with the zero liquid discharge. Regarding growth, we've had a building moratorium in place for over 20 years, and for good reasons. We haven't sorted out all of the problems, and the water reclamation facility, if we operate, we haven't gathered operating data on it ever. So we will learn how well that increases our water supply. There's a lot to learn as we continue to monitor that through the adaptive management plan.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Ms. Scott.
Yes, thank you. I think that based on what I'm hearing from the CCSD staff, that there is not a lot that needs to happen for a full permit to be issued. So, and that is in progress. I think the problem is that we have a structure that was built in 2014 that we have never gotten water from. When and if it ever is used to have additional water for Cambria, we don't know what the cost is going to be. We don't know if that's really going to work. And based on different opinions out there, I think that it might be real dangerous to go ahead and start using this structure. No, I do not agree with more connections. I think that we moved to Cambria because we love Cambria as it is. And we have beautiful forests. We have beautiful deer and turkeys that walk up and down my street. We have a feeling here in Cambria that we love, and that's why we came in the first place. So being cognizant of the fact that there may be something else that says that we have to do growth, but right now I think we should not be adding any connections.
Thank you. Next question, and Mr. Thomas, you'll go first. Please discuss your vision for improving the access to potable and non-potable water for the near term and 5 years out.
Improving access to water. Well, step one is to ensure that we continue to live within our means, and accept that the community has done an excellent job over the last decades conserving water in every way. We need to be sure that our tourism business approaches that standard, if to the extent we can, do everything we can to ensure our tourism, both hotels and Airbnbs, also conserve. Our businesses do a great job. I'm sure there's opportunity further there. In terms of water supply, we need additional storage. Completing the refurbishment project of the Stewart Street tank, building the additional tank at the Stewart Street facility that's envisioned, making use of the brine storage pond to that could be a significant increase in water storage, not for potable use, but it could be used for fire water. It could be used to offset agricultural demands. And then continue to pursue and take another look at the Warren Reservoir, because that is a possibility that could greatly enhance our water supply.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
Yes, thank you. I think that one of the things, and Michael just mentioned this, the citizens of Cambria have really done a good job in conserving. I mean, I think what we've done is we've decreased our use by about half. Businesses haven't been as successful as the residents here in Cambria, but I think there are many places that we can look at to increase conservation. I asked my brother, what does this stage 3 for the water that's available to you, what do you miss? He said, I'd like to have an acre of lawn. I said, yeah, that's not going to happen. But I do really agree with Michael in that we have to look at reservoirs. We have to look at the new technology that will allow us to use the water that we have, and to look at the wastewater and how can we use technology, the wastewater, to a point where we can use it for anything that, landscaping and many other things. So I just think there's a lot of things out there, and that I think we should be able to find a way to increase the water for Cambria, but for Cambria citizens and visitors only.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Mr. Beringer. You're muted. There you go.
Okay. Yes, the idea of non-potable use really isn't a condition here, I don't think. There is a purple pipe someplace on Main Street, and there's also one purple pipe on Moonstone Beach Drive that had been put in a long time ago. But the actual focus to try and use non-potable water in that, we already have it coming from the wastewater treatment plant. So our focus is really where I'm coming from, should be based on reusing the water that's coming through the sewer plant. Now, direct reuse would reduce the amount of water that we take out of either San Simeon or Santa Rosa Creek by 200 acre feet. If that were the case, we would be not 80% less water than we used in 2002 when the water moratorium happened. Now, and then that's 20 years ago, and we should be improving from there. But the other issue, though, is that we did, in fact, the WRF did produce 90 acre feet of water in 2015 and 2016. This was during tests for going from one place to another, but that water actually did, that 90 acre feet of water actually did come up and provide stored water there. So.
Thank you.
Is that a hard stop? Okay.
That's a hard stop. Thank you. Okay, next question. Ms. Scott, you're up first. In 2014, the CSD voted to construct the WRF, lots of acronyms here, and approved a $13 million loan to finance the facility. Do you agree that this was the correct decision?
Looking back, no, I do not think this was the correct decision. I think that there were special interests involved in constructing, in okaying that facility, and then also constructing it. It has not brought water for Cambria. I think that one of the big problems that CCSD has is that we are very overburdened by debt. And one of the things that we need to look at is how do we somehow find funding to get us out of that situation? The last thing I think that we ever want to look at is a bankruptcy for the CCSD. So no, I don't think it was the right thing to do. And I think that many Cambrians are very sorry that that ever happened.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer.
Yes. Oh, well, science and math, like I said just a minute ago, did in fact show that we did produce 90 acre feet. It's on every Cambrian water diversion project by source, which is on the website. And so we did in fact produce 90 acre feet. Also, when I happened to have been on the board, in fact, the chair at the time that picked up the emergency project permit, and it wasn't a special interest. We at that time were in dire straits, and we got $4 million, by the way, from the state, because we had a shovel-ready project, and the state should be asking us why we aren't running that project. So $4 million came from the state. Yes, the Cambrians are paying $8 million, but a third of it was paid for by a state grant that we were able to secure because we built it within a year. And I hope that helps clarify that particular problem.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. Yeah, making the rounds canvassing at the farmer's market, it's literally hundreds of people I've talked with about this facility, and I haven't heard anyone say that they're happy about the history of this emergency water supply project, which was rebranded briefly when Beringer was on the board as we called it the Sustainable Water Facility, as part of clearly as part of the growth agenda, and rebranded again in 2021 as the Water Reclamation Facility as we know it today, which the name fortunately does reflect what it does. And if we had the choice today, we would not build this facility. At the time, there was a portable temporary facilities available that would have better served the immediate needs. But we don't have the choice to build this facility. It's in the ground. We're still paying for it. We're a long ways away from owning it. So we'll be digging ourselves out of the debt the board got us into, exactly as Scott said. We do need to satisfy the permit requirements, develop a sustainable solution to handle the brine waste, and the community, the ratepayers who have been paying for this for 8 years, we're pushing a decade, deserve the choice to run it as they see to meet their needs.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Beringer, you're up first on this. Should the San Simeon CSD run a 4.5-mile pipe to discharge into the Cambria treatment plant?
Well, that's a good one. I would like to, I have in the past worked with San Simeon CSD when I was on the board, and it's a very complex issue. And whether I think that our CCSD should cooperate with other districts. In fact, this regional program, the regional idea of having another desal plant on the West Coast, I believe we should use ours. Let's use our assets to satisfy Cambrian's assets or Cambrian's needs before we go too deeply into that. The Coastal Commission would probably give us problems because for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, I would cooperate with them. There is a rule that the CCSD had said that anything that comes out of this plant or out of our aquifers cannot be used to send up to San Simeon. We cannot share that water with anyone else. But those are rules and regulations, and I look for solutions. So if something says you can't do it, let's find a way that we can make it happen. So my emphasis is science and math. And if there's problems, let's try and have those solve those problems in some way or another. So yeah, I would discuss it. And if there's roadblocks, I would try and get rid of those roadblocks. And we should actually use their outfall, but that's another issue.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. Yes, fundamentally, it'd be better to put that flow into our percolation ponds and into our system than it would be to continue to outfall it into the ocean. My starting point is always what's best for the planet. When our grandchildren and grandchildren look back on what we've done, well, they say we made a good decision, looking at the entire system. So that should be one of the alternatives considered. Before we dive deeper into that, I would want CCSD and San Simeon CSD to work together to kind of draw the boundaries on what it is we're trying to accomplish, look at all of the alternatives, get lots of public input because folks are going to want to weigh in on this. And yes, as Jim said, we would figure out what information we need to evaluate that to provide the best cost-effective solution for both communities, and also what's going to be most environmentally sustainable for all of us. And then evaluate those alternatives, and we'll see if that comes out on top. If so, we would pursue it. If not, we would learn from the experience.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
Yes, I truly don't have an opinion about whether or not there should be a new pipe from San Simeon to our wastewater treatment plant. But I do know that working together with any stakeholder is the way to go. There have been discussions between CCSD and San Simeon CSD. And I think that there is a possibility that we could work together, but I think there is a lot more work that needs to be done to really look at the parameters of what that might entail, and then look at costs, because one of the next things that we're going to have to look at that point is what does it cost and what does it do to the environment. So I think it's a little early for me to let you know what my opinion is on that, but at least you know what my values would be.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, you're up first. We're going to switch here, and
Okay.
yeah, we're going off water. How do you want Cambria to address wildfire threats, and what can be done to improve the protection of structures and ensuring safe evacuations?
Yes, the top of mind, especially after the fire this morning on Sherwood Drive, showed us the excellent response of our fire department. But we need to eliminate as much as we can camping in our urban forest. It is terrifying enough that the wildfires could blow in from the north, with the winds. But a wildfire sparking so close within our urban forest, that would reduce our response time to a matter of minutes. And we'll need to make tough decisions about the trade-offs between forest conservation and forest management. Wildfires have been part of the biosystem for centuries, thousands of years, and for a couple hundred years, we've eliminated all the wildfires, and now with the buildup of fuel, we've got much larger wildfires. Our evacuation routes, we know they're constrained. With our largest concentration of population in Marine Terrace and Lodge Hill, there's been a lot of discussion about the escape route through Rancho Marino. I've walked that route with Keith myself, and it looks great on paper. It would give us an outlet, but oh mercy, let's not kid ourselves. There's going to be a lot of work, and with all the arroyos to cross, this would be a very expensive project.
Thank you.
So we need to, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think that CCSD is looking into some very important aspects of how to prevent fires, not only residence fires, but wildfires. We are looking at getting a new fire chief, and there is some talk about that, about our fire department really taking an active part in making sure that there's defensible space around houses. The evacuation issue is being very well addressed through NCAC and the different fire groups. They are working beautifully together, looking at alternative evacuation routes, looking at what kind of things need to be put in into place so that we can do that, and then also practicing that evacuation route. So those people who live down on Sherwood, down on the beach, they need to be able to get out of there, and so we have to figure this out. This is one of those scary things that I think everybody thinks about, but we have to take responsibility for making sure that things are safe for our citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer.
Same question, I suppose.
Same question.
I think I addressed it pretty well yesterday on at the NCAC meeting, in that I support all of the evacuation routes that David Pearson's group has suggested. But the most important thing is that the CCSD doesn't have land use authority. We cannot dictate or enforce routes, roads, parking, or any other actions on developed property within Cambria. The county has sole authority on these issues and vacation rentals. Even the opportunity for a community to grow is determined by the county's growth management ordinance. So I support it all. Yes, we should be involved, but our fire department is focused on structure fires, as they did a fantastic job this morning. They're trained, well equipped, have water storage. 2 fire chiefs have spoken at the CCSD meetings that I had conducted that said we have enough storage, we have enough pressure, we have enough equipment for structure fires, but we don't have that for a forest fire. And forest fire is relegated to the county, but mainly to CAL FIRE. Forest fires are fought from the air and from stored water. And I agree with you repurposing that pond, that evaporation pond, for extra storage. But after that pond is empty, they're going to go right to the ocean and take water if water is used. But mainly it's chemicals and it's air power that solves those problems.
Thank you. Ms. Scott, next question for you. We're going to talk about the services district itself. Do you support going back to in-person meetings?
Absolutely. The very first board meeting that I listened to, that was part of my testimony. I said, you guys need to be down with the people, and you need to be able to look them in the eye, and they need to be able to look you in the eye. We can take precautions, keep the doors open, and for people who are afraid, we should have Zoom possibilities, but in-person meetings are really the best, because we're people serving people, and we need to make sure that we have a face for the citizens of Cambria. Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer.
Of course. I've thought about it for months. I don't know why we didn't do it in the past. However, today, the next CCSD board meeting was determined at today's meeting to be in the Betts Hall next month live. And I still support a Zoom opportunity, and a Zoom opportunity where people that are still not capable of coming or are able to attend with comment can not only make a comment, but be seen and participate via video. And I think that if there is video availability, the board and other members that are either Zooming or there should be able to see who the other attendees are out there. And yes, of course, it's a stop my timer. I'm done. Yeah, that's what we should do.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Sounds like we agree on something. Yes, it's time to get back to in-person meetings. I'm ready, willing, and able. And I definitely agree, for many reasons, that we continue the Zoom option. And as has been brought up, it's important to enable those who really are not comfortable to be in a social setting to fully listen from home. Everyone that doesn't drive down to the Betts Hall, we've saved some gas. We've reduced greenhouse gas emissions. So that is going to be better for our planet in the long run. Absolutely. And as Karen brought up in a recent board meeting, she's not here tonight, but the huge efficiencies enabling the consultants that CCSD employees in allowing staff to Zoom in so they don't have to sit in the Betts Hall. They can chime in as needed. Huge advantages to that. And also continuing the AGP video that will, the cost increment is moderate. And it appears to me that the savings from that far outweigh the minor cost in producing, those additional video services.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer, you're up next for this question. Would you consider incorporating Cambria?
Oh, accidentally, it was published someplace. It was actually in writing. And I'll tell you, it's so controversial. It's a study was done about 12 years ago when I was on the board. And it was a group, kind of a citizens group that went and polled. And everybody said, no, we don't want to do that. The economic advantages are horrendous for us to take on. The only two things we don't do is planning and land use. Well, if we could get a portion of the tourism TOT, which would be 9%, 500,000, that's $4.5 million immediately to support things, and any portion of the property tax. Now, it's not that easy. A law was created in 10 years ago or something that said that if a community wanted to incorporate, they had to pay back the county for all of the services they do. Now, all the services they do for us, we have water, wastewater, we have trash, we have all of these, even streetlights. We have all this kind of stuff. We don't have building and planning. What has building and planning done for us over the last 10 years? I'm sorry, very little. We can, I got to stop, but I don't want to stop it. Yes, we should.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Worth considering. Jim left out police services. I don't propose that we defund the police. The services we get from the county for police services are awesome. And everything people can do to work together to create solutions that don't cause additional resources. Everybody doesn't have to build their own everything. And I don't see us, frankly, having, being big enough to being able to afford the extra cost to add those services. It's not going to come free. So I would see lots of hurdles. We would, like I say, it's worth considering. We would have a lot of community discussion. We would consider the alternatives, look at what scope we would want to put in. I've got the hunch that as it all boils down, Cambria residents would end up having to pay more. There'd be, so I think it's unlikely.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
Well, I think this would be an excellent opportunity to really find out what Cambrians want. I think if this would be a public endeavor, that this would be something that people could find out what the facts are. What would this really mean for us? How much would it cost? What would it mean for our services? What would it mean for Cambria itself? This would be an opportunity for us to actually find out what our citizens want, and is this really where we want to go? I don't know. I kind of know Cambrians, and I'm not sure they'd go for it, especially if there was an increased cost. But I think this would be a great exercise in finding out how CCSD and Cambrians can actually work together and find a common goal and go forward then. But I'm not sure it's going to go.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, next question. What suggestions do you have for increasing public awareness and participation?
Oh, goodness. There's so much we can do. We have to build trust. So many conversations I have with folks. I just hear over and over. We don't trust. We were engaged, but we finally given up. We would provide input, and we couldn't see it go anywhere. No one ever let us know where our input brought us. So trust builds slowly, erodes quickly. And you know what I would do to build trust, tell you what I'm going to do, and I'll do what I say. Guarantee. I'll hold CCSD and my fellow board members accountable to do the same. This is what we said we're going to do. Simplify board meeting agendas, make it a little easier for folks to see this is what you're going to do. Establish a systematic, inclusive decision process that the community has input early on, because if the community sees they have input early on, they will get more involved. And really be consistent about what we're working on, the decisions that are going to be coming down the pike, and not wait until, example today, here's the fire chief, this is the decision. The more input we can get from the community, the earlier, and the informing them earlier, the better.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
This is one of my favorite topics. I think if Cambrians had input from the very beginning of issues, then that trust that Michael's talking about would grow. I think what we need to do is we need to have a newsletter. Wouldn't it be great for us to get a letter from CCSD as ratepayers that said positive stuff, that said, this is what we're working on, this is what we want to do, what do you think of it? I think that we need to have town hall meetings. There were today was in a discussion where there is a potluck going to be, I think it's next month. And we used to have potlucks all the time where people could come together, issues could be discussed, questions could be asked, and the public can actually have one-on-one conversations with the board of the CCSD board. So why not a publication? I mean, there's all kinds of information out there that CCSD could share. I think one of the other things is that the office needs to be open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, because you got to have a face with the people that you pay money to, and you got to have an opportunity to say what you need to say as a citizen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer.
Yes, on outreach. Today, Don Howell, when they were talking about hiring the new fire chief, there was a lot of discussion that went on. And Don Howell stated today at the board's meeting today that the board has the responsibility to hire the general manager, approve employment contracts, not determine who is the employee, but approve the employment contract, approve budgets, and set policy. Those are the only things that the CCSD board can do. We need to trust a little bit the general manager and staff. However, as far as input, the fire safety focus group was fantastic. It was an ad hoc committee. They didn't have to have minutes. They were able to really do a great job on what we need is fire safety. I think that the community groups should get together, find the forest committee should get together, and they should provide input. But if they're burdened with the Brown Act, and if they're burdened by being restricted from talking, we just need to bring those in. We don't need to have a director going there getting $100 a meeting. We don't have to have minutes. We can let the staff do what the staff needs to do. But I like public input.
Thank you. Ms. Scott, next question. What is your view of the CSD's financial situation, and what can be done to improve its situation?
Well, we're still paying $1.4 million a year for the WRF. So that tells you one thing. And we just okayed a 30-year loan for to update the wastewater plant. Now that needs to be done because it hasn't been done. I think board after board has just kind of pushed it to the back. But I think that we need to make sure that our infrastructure is strong. I'm concerned with the financial status of the CCSD. I looked at their budget, the last budget that I looked at, there's all kinds of waste in that budget, in my opinion. But I do think that there's a lot of ways to save money. As I said earlier, that's one of my strong points. Don't ask my husband because he's going to say, yeah, she's, she doesn't let me spend what I want to spend. But I think that's what we have to do is we have to look at every single penny that we spend. And what we have to do is we have to say this money is the ratepayers' money. It is not CCSD's money. And we have to keep in mind that those expenditures are something that need to benefit the citizens of Cambria.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer.
Yes, I think that the CCSD budget is in the best shape it's been in a long time, more than a decade. There's been deferred maintenance for a long time. That solution has been studied. It looks like the Prop 218 went through well. I think it's because of those citizens that looked at the infrastructure and looked at finance have done a great job in making sure that those monies are going to be spent well. Now I don't want to say that we shouldn't do that, but the finance committee should meet maybe once or twice a year so they can review the budget. Now that infrastructure is pretty well, maybe they meet once a quarter, something like that to save some money. I think you can save some money all over the place. Let's use the assets that we have. Don't ship them off, turn them off or whatever, and look for ways to save money. In fact, one thing, I have an idea that we can save money on our waste, our trash, the trash payments that we make every month. It turns out the CCSD, when they have waste management come in, the citizens pay for their own part, but then it turns out waste management picks up all the trash for free along Main Street. Maybe we should, instead of making a deal, do it for free for us. Maybe we should make a deal as they charge us, and then we charge back to the county and say, hey, county, this is your street. These are your trash cans. Reimburse us for those things. Just a thought.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. We do need to build reserves in our accounts. We are in fairly good shape, but in looking at this, keeping costs in check is really a challenge. We've got the inability to grow, so we're not adding new ratepayers. We on the income side of the balance sheet, we've got the ongoing demands of an aging infrastructure. We've got sewer lines in the ground that are older than I am, so the maintenance costs are not going to go away. This last round of projects is not the last round of projects we're going to have to deal with. And what I won't do is defer maintenance for decades, as boards have done in the past. We've got to be committed to leaving a better Cambria for future generations. So we've got to fund those critical projects. And another thing I won't do is push major installations on the community that the community doesn't need, want, or understand. We need decision-making practices in place that look at all of the alternatives, get community input, and give us the most cost-effective solution that meets our needs. And I will scrutinize all of the operating and maintenance and administrative processes and look for opportunities to cut costs wherever possible.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer, next question. What is your position on growth And what infrastructure besides water needs to be in place when considering more growth?
Well, it's clear that our wastewater treatment plant was set up and can support 5,000 residents. Not that we're going to have 5,000 residents or users, but the sewer plant is more than adequate to support that. The CCSD does not have authority to grow. The county is going to need to get the data and the ability, the math and science that says that we have plenty, that we have enough resources to support not only our own, which we of course can, but even some growth. Before the moratorium, it was 1%. If they determine it might be 1% after that, that's fine. But math and science is going to determine whether we must, by the way, support some growth, because if the county says you can grow by 1%, if you don't, there's a legal obligation that the CCSD has. It seems like people think, well, the CCSD is really in charge. Well, really, if you want to talk about sustainability, can this community be sustained by having no more kids in school, no more architects in town, no more skilled labor? I'm done. Timers. Hearts.
Thank you, Mr. Behringer. Mr. Thomas.
The toughest question truly about growth. The water moratorium was in place because of the concerns about the long-term reliability of our water supply and and the need for water suppression. And we also still have the issue of it will take hours for evacuation. And these problems have to be addressed. I agree. There's probably little changes would need to be made at the wastewater treatment plant, but water concerns are the major issue. We really do not have additional water supply, and if and when we are able to operate the water reclamation facility in San Simeon, we will see what the response is. The assumptions, which are fairly reasonable, that 60% of the output from the unit will create a sufficient amount that will supplement the water supply in the San Simeon wells, but we don't know that, and that would take some time. That would probably take years of running it to see what the response is. If we get to that point, first thing I want to ask is, how do we get more of the people who work here in this community to be able to live here in this community? Because all the people that have to drive up the hill for affordable housing in Paso Robles, the Tascadero, that's additional gas, that's additional greenhouse gas emissions that future generations are going to look back and say, what were you thinking?
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
As Cambria stands right now, we do not have the infrastructure, we do not have the water, and we do not have the wherewithal to grow. So there's those things that need to come before growth. Even though CCSD doesn't have authority over land use, we do have authority over issuing water meters. And so CCSD does have a huge role in whether or not we have growth. So one of the things that it is really important for us to remember is, you can't put the chicken before the egg, or the cart before the horse. You really have to look at, let's make this a place where people don't worry about water, people don't worry about getting out of here if we have a fire, and then we'll look at growth. Right now, we cannot grow.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, what impacts do you believe vacation rentals are having in Cambria, And do you believe we need to change the current number of permits?
Ooh, need study, need data on that. I hear over and over people talk about seeing waste from the vacation rentals in their neighborhoods. I don't know to what extent that's anecdotal versus extensive, but I suspect I'm quite certain that vacation rentals use rate has to be much greater than the average Cambrians, because folks here are so water conscious. Don't have a good handle on the exact number of vacation rentals, partly because it's hard data to get, and a lot of folks can bypass that through having monthly rentals. They say they're just renting out to their friends. I mean, they're not renting; they're just having their friends come stay. So the real number is probably far greater than some folks realize. So that is worth a real good look, and it does make sense to find some way to impose fees on those who are profiting from their homes as vacation rentals, bringing those fees back into CCSD to address the problems that they're creating.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
I think the issues really is really twofold. And that is that the fact that we have vacation rentals cuts down on the rentals that are available for people who live and work in Cambria. So yes, I would be in favor of decreasing the number of permits. So that's one side of the issue. The second side of the issue, and this is what I think Michael was talking about, the problems that they cause. People don't get rid of their garbage in the right garbage bin. There's recyclable in the green bin. There's we know that when we go on vacation, we don't pay attention. Some of us do, but a lot of us don't pay attention to the rules that are going on there. I think it would be great if there was a way to access more funding from those people who have vacation rentals, and also impose some truancy, some true control over what actually happens in these rentals, because I know a lot of people that have a real hard time with not only the trash but the noise all hours of the night. So I think I would like there to be less. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer.
Everybody hates vacation rentals. Let's face it. The citizens don't like it, etc. The biggest point is the CCSD has zero control over vacation rentals. The county issues permits for vacation rentals and controls vacation rentals. And as much as someone, like I mentioned today at the CCSD board meeting, the CCSD can give a will serve letter to someone that's applying for a vacation rental permit. And that's all they're saying. Yes, they do have water. Then it goes to the county. The county says, okay, they have water. They can now get this permit. Well, the permit, a lot of people are picking up permits because they want to keep somebody that's 200 feet away from them from having a vacation rental. So that's the scheme on the street. But again, the CCSD has zero control, cannot tax, cannot do anything. If going back to incorporating, all we have to do is pay for the sheriff to come in through here and contract with the sheriff, just like people contract with ambulance services. Get planning and building control, reimburse the county for what they have to be. And I really, I didn't want to go on to this potential of incorporating, but everything most of the things we're talking about, routes, roads, parking, all of this stuff is not in our responsibility. And I support ADUs, by the way, auxiliary dwelling units. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Ms. Scott, do you support a skate park in Cambria? Do you favor rebuilding it on Main Street, or which is favored by the skate park users, or at the site near the dog park advocated by staff?
I do support a skate park. I have 6 grandchildren, and several of them would love to have a skate park when they come to visit their grandmother. I think downtown is a fun. I think that would be a good place for it. There are people around. I think that there may be, if it's down by the dog park, it's out of the way and people can't reach it unless they are driven there. For example, one of my grandsons went down the hill, down Burton, and fell down and scraped his face. So I think having it in town is a really good idea.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer.
Yes. Oh, same thing about skate park?
Skate park, same question.
I co-founded a skateboard company, and yes, I think that skate park would be a big add to this community. I personally would like to see it on the East Ranch, but I understand very closely how the users and especially the parents of those skaters and the visibility of it being on Main Street has great effect. I think that a real skate park with larger footprint, it would be less expensive. It would bring more people to the park. It has 100 parking spaces and a bathroom, but I'm not going to go into this. I'm good on either way. I kind of like the idea that it's on Main Street for a lot of reasons. I would think that maybe after this skate park is there, maybe after it's there, and anyway, I just think that we'd be more pump space, more other use for a skate park where we could put bikes on there and so on and so forth. But I don't think we have an advanced enough demand to be able to get it on the East Ranch in a short term. I think we can get this skate park on Main Street in the next year or two, and then expand on it in the future.
Thank you.
East Ranch.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
You're right. Since I've been on the Resources and Infrastructure Committee for the last 2 years, I've been listening to every board meeting because I learned I have to understand the greater context. And so I have heard a lot of input on the skate park, and over, let's just say the public has spoken. The community wants it on Main Street. The signal couldn't be clearer. Yeah, and I understand the logic of the original proposal to put it on the East Ranch, put the soccer fields there as well and such. I was talking to a couple high school players in the gym a few days ago. They were pumping it, and I asked them, and they both play soccer, and I asked, so can folks do pickup games at the high school? And he says, oh yeah, we have people come. And when I think about the long term, do we build a sports field on the ranch, on the East Ranch? First, we have to really look at resource sharing. We've got it's a beautiful soccer field on the at the middle school. Some nice facilities at the elementary, great facilities at the high school. Maybe there can be some sharing of that. But in terms of where the skate park goes, the signal's very clear. I absolutely support the skate park.
Thank you. Mr. Beringer, next question.
Uh-oh.
What can be done to address affordability issues in Cambria?
Oh, well, I do know that we do have 33 units that could go up near the schoolhouse. And I heard the other day that the People's Self-Help sold that project. So the potential of that project being built is it doesn't have anything to do with the CCSD or the Coastal Commission. Somebody's got to come up and build it. Affordability is just out of the question. I do support ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units. It's supported throughout the state of California. It's being pushed on every county. You have to, by the end of this year, you're going to have to not have parking regulations and everything else regarding auxiliary dwelling units. You have somebody that lost their partner to a death, and they want to convert their garage into an auxiliary dwelling unit. You can have a couple of people live there, and letting the people stay in their own home or share a room, and there's a sharing program. So auxiliary dwelling units, for some reason, I think I know why, the Coastal Commission thinks that the CCSD cannot have any potential growth. However, what's the difference between having 8 people living in one house, or 2 people or 4 people living in 2 different homes, or having 6 people living in a house, or 4 in a home and 2 in the garage? And it would just support a little bit of growth. We need a little bit of growth, or we're going to die.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. Yeah, tough issue. I've racked my brain on this because it's a challenge. I could see some network, some way to folks that really have plenty of rooms that would like to have someone living there but don't have the means. Like, well, how do I go about it? Maybe it's CCSD, maybe it's some other nonprofit, but some way to encourage house sharing. I would love to see some way, and this is one where I would want to have some forums, just some listening sessions with the community. There are it's not hundreds, there are thousands of empty homes in Cambria. And probably a few of those would be willing to let their houses, let their homes be full-time rentals for families that work here that need. I've even thought about some, like FFRP does with the legacy giving in someone's will. If someone has no one to leave their home to, find a nonprofit that can then become the agency that connects people who need homes.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
Yeah, I think we need to really find some incentives for, I have a house right across the fence from me. I don't know that I've ever seen the people who live there, and it's empty. And the bottom line is we need to incentivize people like that to be able to maybe even just rent part of their home. I have another friend here that has a second small, I think it's an ADU. And that person waters her plants. If she has to leave and wants to leave her dog, I think collaborating with each other is really going to be the way to make this happen. But I think there does need to be a much more structured way for people to know what's available, and then make sure that there are incentives for those people to be able to offer their homes.
Thank you. This brings us to our final question. Mr. Thomas, you're first. Should you be elected, what are your top 3 priorities?
Water, building trust, water supply, and fire safety. Those are the top 3. I've talked about what I'll do to build trust, and once again, be be clear about what we're going to do, get public input. We've been at this long enough that we know the kind of decisions that the public is going to be interested in. Look far down the road, know when we start working on those decisions, and get input so that we're evaluating all the alternatives, so that when we get to a final decision point, folks say, all right, we've had the input, and CCSD can be better at, and we can track, here are all the opportunities we've had to provide input. Right, on the water supply, we've talked in depth about that. First we've got to live within our means, continue to do so, deal with the WRF, use it as we see fit, additional water storage, and fire safety. We've really got to back up our fire department, provide them the resources they need. They've got to have the personnel long term, and deal with the evacuation routes first. That's immediate.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest obstacle for CCSD to be able to get the work done that they need to get done is that there needs to be better communication with the citizens, with the public. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and so that's part of what I do is be a good listener and to really look at what that person is saying and what that person needs. So I think that yes, I mean, water always, right? Fire safety always, but trust in the CCSD so that we can get done what we need to get done within our authority, within our parameters, and then also that communication with the many groups that are doing a lot of good work in Cambria. So my first one is communication, better communication. My second one is water, of course, and my third one is fire safety. And how can we really protect and have this be a safe place for our Cambrians?
Thank you. Mr. Beringer.
Well, that same thing, up until about 5 minutes ago, I would have said something different, but I'm thinking now after this discussion, especially concerned of all of the things that we are concerned about: vacation rentals, fire safety, routes, roads, parking. I think that we should very seriously consider incorporating. We've tried it before, but we need to look for solutions for things that people are really caring about, and people are caring about those things. We could contract for police services. The sheriff comes through here, the county pays for it. For us to pay for him to come, for those people to come through for public safety is just a contract, just like we contract for trash services. Of course, and of course, we've all talked about fire safety and evacuation routes, but as I discussed, we really don't have authority over that, and we have input, but that's true. Of course, support the fire department, that's for sure. But I think that we have an asset in place, and we should do everything we can to get that asset working. In other words, get the water reuse facility working. We should start putting mitigation water into the streams. We should slow the extraction of water from the Santa Rosa Creek or San Simeon Creek in order to make something happen. And we got to make sure that the rate that we just passed with the 218 initiative is spent wisely, as the committees have said they should do.
Thank you. So this brings us to our closing statements. Each of the candidates will have a 2-minute closing statement, and we'll go in reverse order from the opening statements. And so we'll start with Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Shelley. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters, to the other candidates for your candid remarks. And most importantly, to all of you who brought in questions and for listening in tonight. You've worked as hard, and I think this has been a great forum. My commitment to each of you, I will tell you what I'm going to do, and that's exactly what I will do. I will rebuild trust in CCSD by doing what I can to hold everyone accountable to do the same. I will find ways to greatly increase the engagement of the community in decision making, and I will work as a team with the other directors to be sure that we provide safe, reliable drinking water, keep everyone safe as we can from wildfires, limit our growth to no more than we can sustain, given our limited water supplies and our challenged evacuation routes. We will keep costs in check by, at the same time, maintaining and enhancing our aging water delivery and wastewater infrastructures so that we truly do leave Cambria better for the next generation than we found it. I mean, the conversations I've had, over the last, month or so, aside from saying, Michael, you've lost your marbles, what I hear over and over again is the sincere, we know this is a tough job. This is a thankless job. And thank you so much for doing this. And this every day deepens my resolve to do what I can to make Cambria a better place for us today and for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Beringer.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I kind of talked about, I was going to, just give the normal speech, but since I don't have one, I think incorporation with Cambria makes good sense. Safety from the Sheriff's Department, and we can contract that with the sheriff. The county has sole authority over vacation rentals, and even the opportunity for growth is controlled by the growth management ordinance. In my first term, our board terminated the GM's contract and hired a new GM. So I have some experience there. And just for fact finding, the year that the building moratorium was introduced, we extracted over 800 feet of water from our well fields. Last year, we used but 225 acre feet. Science and math have shown that our conservation efforts have proven to be very effective. Also, since then, the SR4 well was drilled into the high school. Through my leadership, the water recycle facility had been constructed, actually producing 90 acre feet of water in 2015 and 16. Sustainability means growth, a little bit of growth for our high schools, for a little growth maybe with ADUs. Having run a bed and breakfast for 10 years, I feel that I have a gauge on the conservation efforts of the hospitality industry. Solar panels to support our water and wastewater plants, and trade-offs exist. And yes, to implement new technology to eliminate the need for discharge and conduct direct use when required. I cannot please anyone, and said that when two Cambrians meet, they produce three different opinions. For questions or clarifications, please contact me on my website, jim4ccsd.com. Hey, let's schedule a Zoom if you'd like. Anybody out there that would like to just go to my website, jim4ccsd.com, say I'd like to Zoom, suggest a time. I'm available pretty much for the next 3 weeks. So I hope that I will do what the citizens want. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you to all of those who have done the technical part of what we're doing today, and then also all of you who have attended. Really means a lot to me, and I know the other candidates. We definitely appreciate your being here. My strengths are knowing how to work within a system, knowing how to assess the different assets that are there and how to use those resources in the best possible way. I'm great at building alliances. I have done that in the past and continue to do that in my life. One of the things that people have commented on is that my communication style is straight, direct, and you can know that what I say, I'm being honest about. I won't let you down. Communication among the between the public and the board is a very high priority for me. And fiscal accountability. I'm really good at saving money and finding other ways to make extra money so that we can do what we need to do for Cambrians. Please go to my website, deborahscott.org. Contact me. I'm more than happy to meet with you in person, talk on the phone, do a Zoom. I'm here to hear what you have to say. And I hope that you go out and vote. Every vote counts. And it's my hope that after hearing our platforms and our opinions tonight, that you choose to vote for me for CCSD director. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I want to thank all three of you for taking the time tonight to answer questions from your community. But more importantly, I just want to thank you for taking the time and interest to serve the public, because it's not easy. And without people like yourself, we wouldn't have a community services district. So thank you on behalf of your residents. I want to thank the league team that helped put this on and our Zoom manager, Hilding Larson. And please note that this recording will be uploaded onto our website, lwvslo.org. It may take a day or two, but you'll be able to view it soon. And please don't forget to vote on November 8th. And thank you all again very much.